So everyone, let us continue with the topic. We had discussed quite a few things about fluid and fluid mechanics previously. We discussed the terms fluid mechanics, fluid, how it is derived from mechanics that we had discussed. Then we discussed quite a few application areas of fluid mechanics. And lastly, we were talking about the properties of a fluid. And there we tried to discuss the properties in terms of thermodynamic aspects, and then we saw there could be two ways to categorize a property. Either it could be intensive property or extensive property. Fine. Then we have seen if you have some unknown property, how can you identify whether it's an intensive property or extensive property? That we have seen that intensive property do not depends upon the extent of the system, size of the system, while extensive property depends upon the size, the extent, the mass of the system. So if you change the size of the system, the value of the property will change or not change. If it is changing, then you can say that type of property as a extensive property, and if the value of the property is not changing, you can call that as a intensive property. Also, I have told you that the ratio of two extensive property will be an intensive property. For example, if I talk about density, so density is the ratio of mass and volume. So mass and volume both are extensive property, but the ratio of these are called as density, which is an intensive property. And similarly, we have specific properties like specific volume, specific energy, specific mass, not mass, sorry, specific weight, I can say. So those type of properties are called as intensive property. Why? Because they are again the ratio of two extensive property. If I talk about specific volume is volume per unit mass. So volume and mass both are extensive properties. The ratio of these extensive properties and intensive property. So all the specific properties are intensive property that we discussed till the last class. And also in the last point, we discussed about a state postulate. There we discussed that minimum two intensive properties are required to define the state of a thermodynamic system, or to identify or to calculate or to measure the other properties of the system also. Fine. So that is the state postulate we discussed. Now we will continue our discussion from that part only. We'll try to discuss some other properties of fluid in this particular session. Now you can clearly see that the first property which I'm going to discuss is density. Okay, so again, a very common term, density. We are dealing with density in our day-to-day life, and we had been studying this term since our school days. Fine. So let us just quickly recap this property, density, or sometimes alternatively it is also called as mass density. Fine. So basically you are familiar that the density is the ratio of mass and volume. Okay, mass of a fluid to its volume, that will be the density. Okay, and in SI units, see, we will be doing some calculations in this course. So I would recommend you to always follow the SI units. Okay, so standard units for density, like density is mass per unit volume. So mass, the SI unit of mass is kilograms, and volume, the SI unit for volume is meter cube. So the SI unit of density will be kilogram per meter cube, as you can see over here also. Okay. So SI unit of density we discussed is kilogram per meter cube. Now you can also see that the density of liquid and gases, so the density of liquid and gases also depends upon other properties like pressure and temperature. If you change the pressure and temperature for a gas or a liquid, its density is you can say bound to change. Right? We can have certain examples, like if you try to compress a gas, okay, what will happen? Its density will increase, decrease, whatever will happen. You can easily understood this thing. If you try to heat the water, if you try to increase the temperature of the water, what will happen? The density will increase or decrease. You can easily understand this thing. Fine. So density depends upon some other parameters like pressure and temperature. Okay, so just for the calculation, mathematically density is mass per unit volume, and its SI unit will be kg per meter cube. Okay, if you have density in gram per centimeter cube, so which is equivalent to 1000 kilogram per meter cube. Now specific weight or weight density. So like we discussed mass density as mass per unit volume, so weight density will be weight per unit volume. Okay, as simple as that. So weight density is weight per unit volume. You can see weight of the fluid per unit volume. Now weight is, weight is a term, is a, you can say, unit, is a part of a force. Weight is a kind of a force. So I can, how we usually define weight. Weight is mass into acceleration due to gravity. So that is what weight is. You can say disintegrated into two terms: mass of the fluid into acceleration due to gravity divided by the volume. So it is m into g, mass into g divided by volume of the fluid. So you know that mass per unit volume is what? Mass density. Okay, that is rho. So it has been converted over here as that the weight density is mass density into g. Okay, so that is the relation of specific weight with density. Okay, I hope it is clear. Moving on. Now, if we need to discuss, this is a out of you can say slightly different topic. So if we need to discuss, if you need to calculate the density for an ideal gas. Okay, so far we have not discussed different types of fluids. Okay, but there is one type of fluid that is called as ideal gas, and the ideal gas are those gases in which the intermolecular interaction of between the gases are minimum, and because of which there is one property we are going to discuss in the later part, which is called viscosity. So there will be very less or negligible viscosity available in the ideal gases. Fine, so those are called as ideal gases. Now for ideal gases we can easily apply a equation of state that is called as P equal to rho into R into T, where P will be called as absolute pressure. Okay, rho is the density, mass density, R is called as universal gas constant, and T is called as absolute temperature. Fine. So this relation can be used to calculate the density of a ideal fluid if other parameters are given. Basically R is the universal gas constant, so its value is constant. So value of R is, you can see over here, so value of R is almost 8.314 kilojoule per kilomole Kelvin. Take care of the unit, it is kilojoule per kilomole into Kelvin. Fine. Also you can see this is the universal gas constant, but for different gases like air or some other gases, hydrogen, oxygen, fine, the value of R may change. So basically the formula for specific gas constant is universal gas constant divided by the molecular weight of the particular gas. Like in case of air has a molecular weight of approximately 29.3. So if you divide 8.314 with 29.3, that is the molecular weight of the air, you will get specific gas constant for air nearly 2.87, 0.287, and you can just see the units are also changed: kilojoule per kg Kelvin. So take care of this particular entity, that R specific gas constant for air is 0.287, and that is in terms of kilojoules. If you convert this in terms of joules, so it will be 287 joules per kg Kelvin. So take care of the units. Okay. Next property we are going to discuss is specific volume. So specific volume is basically, if you need to define the specific volume, we also discussed specific volume in the previous portion. Basically, when we talk about specific volume, we just want to calculate that how much volume. Suppose you are storing a fluid, fine. If you are storing a liquid or a fluid, how much volume does this fluid is going to take place within a container? If you want to store a particular, suppose you want to store 1 kg of fluid in a particular container, so you need to know that how much volume it is going to occupy. So accordingly you can decide the size of the container, and that is the importance of specific volume. And from the formula you can say that specific volume is basically the reciprocal of mass density. Okay, so specific volume, it is denoted by small v. Fine, so small v is reciprocal of density, that is 1 by rho, and obviously the SI units will be different, will be reciprocal also, it is the meter cube per kg. Okay, and in general we discussed that whatever the specific properties we have, so those will be that property in terms of per unit mass. So volume per unit mass, obviously it is meter cube per kg. And when we talk about the type of property, intensive or extensive, so specific volume I can say it's a intensive property. Now if we talk about specific gravity, again, see, specific gravity, this is a specific term, but it's slightly different than other specific properties. Basically, if you want to define a specific gravity, it is it is also alternatively also called as relative density, specific gravity, or in some books you may read this term relative density. And so specific gravity is basically the ratio of densities. Okay, now what ratio of densities of what kind of fluid? Let's see. So the ratio of it is the ratio of density of a particular fluid to the density of a standard fluid. Okay, here mathematically also you can see that the weight density of a liquid, whatever, if in terms of liquid, we are talking about specific gravity for liquids and gases, the formula is slightly different for both of them. So if you want to calculate specific gravity for liquids, so that will be the density of unknown liquid, okay, divided by the density of standard liquid. Standard liquid we consider to be water. Water is the standard liquid. Similarly for gases, air is the standard gas. Okay, standard, why we are choosing them as a standard? Because the density of water and air is popular and it is known, so we are taking it as a standard liquid or standard gas for water and air. Okay, so specific gravity for liquids, I can say the density of unknown. Suppose you want to find the specific gravity for particular fluid. Okay, let's say it's a liquid. So if you want to find the specific gravity of that particular unknown liquid, what you will do, you will measure its density. Okay, and then you will divide the density of the unknown fluid with the density of the water. Okay, so that is how we will calculate specific gravity for liquids and as well as for gases. Okay, and suppose, yeah, it is given also, suppose if the density, if you are given the specific gravity of a particular fluid of a particular liquid, let's say, okay, and you need to calculate the density, so that will be the specific gravity of that liquid into density of the water. Okay, so simple as that. These kinds of relation we can use, like in case of diesels or in case of gasoline fuels, the specific gravity lies near about 0.8. Fine, so if the specific gravity of diesel is 0.8, what will be the density of diesel? You can easily calculate. Just put the specific gravity value over here, 0.8 into 1000. That will be 800 kilogram per meter cube. That will be the density of the gasoline fuel. Okay. Similarly for mercury, it is given example, specific gravity of mercury is 13.6. Okay, so if you multiply with the density of water, okay, that is 1000, so 13.6 into 1000 is 13600 kg per meter cube. So that will be the, you can say, density of the mercury. Okay, so this is how we will calculate specific gravity. Now coming to the part that what is the use of specific gravity, basically we can see with the help of specific gravity we can judge whether a particular liquid is going to float over water or not. If I talk about in terms of liquid, so whether a particular liquid is going to float over water or not, if the specific gravity of of a particular liquid is less than 1. Okay, if the specific gravity of a particular liquid is less than 1, most likely that liquid is going to float over water. Like in case of oils, okay, in case of, let's say, oils, whenever you may have seen, there was a back in the time, there was an incident of oil spill. Okay, a large amount of oil has been spilled from the oil extraction center, and that oil spill, see, those oil stations were in the oceans. So when the oil spill, a large amount of oil was floating over the ocean. Fine, so they are not getting mixed. Why they are floating over the ocean is because the specific gravity of the oil is less than 1. Okay, 0.8, as I mentioned in case of gasoline fuels. Fine, so whenever the specific gravity is less than 1, the most likely the liquid is going to float over the water. Okay, and if the specific gravity is greater than 1, like in case of mercury, fine, so what will happen, that fluid may, or I can say that fluid may sink underwater and water will be floating over that particular liquid. Okay, so this is the use of specific gravity, and this property is used in several chemical industries because of the specific gravity of particular chemical liquids are known, and so that they can mix particular amount of liquid with another liquids to prepare particular pharmaceuticals. Now let's try to solve some basic questions based on the, you can say, whatever the properties we have studied so far. Let's try to just read the question once, try to identify, and then I'll discuss. Okay, so you can see in this question, particular question, that we need to calculate specific weight, density, and specific gravity. Just try to remember what was the formula of specific weight. It is weight per unit volume. Okay, then density, mass per unit volume, okay, and specific gravity, density of the liquid divided by the density of the water. Okay, because it is given in this question that we are using a liquid, so we will divide with the density of the water. If it is a gas, then we will be using a density of the air. Fine. So it is given in the question that how much volume of this particular liquid we are taking, that is 1 liter of volume we are taking for this particular liquid, and 1 liter volume of this liquid weighs around 7 Newton. The weight of the liquid is given. So what quantities are given? Two quantities are given: volume of the liquid, that is 1 liter, and weight of the given liquid, 7 Newton. Okay. Now see, SI unit of volume is not liter. SI unit of volume is meter cube. So we will convert the volume into SI units, and you know that there is a particular you can say logic that there are there are 1000 liter in 1 meter cube, or reciprocal to that, in 1 liter there are 1 by 1000 meter cube. So always remember, in 1 meter cube there will be 1000 liters of liquid. Okay. For So we can convert this 1 liter into meter cube, so it will be 1 by 1000 meter cube. And so we have two properties, weight and volume, and what we need to calculate, specific weight. So you know, specific weight is weight per unit volume, so we can easily convert. We just need to take the ratio of weight and volume. So weight is 7 Newton, volume is 1 by 1000. So the specific weight for the particular liquid is 7000 Newton per meter cube. Newton is the SI unit of force. Okay, so no need to convert it into kilograms. So specific weight is 7000 Newton per meter cube. Similarly, if I need to calculate density, so density is, density is mass per unit volume. We have not been given mass, we have been given weight. So we need to convert weight into mass. Okay. So how can you convert weight into mass? Just divide the 7 by g. Okay. So if you divide the 7 by g, it will become 7 by 9.81. Okay, divide by volume. So divide by volume, this will be 1 by 1000, so it will go over 7000. Okay, or there is a relation we have seen in the previous slides, this relation, that specific weight is equals to rho into g. And if you need to calculate rho, so you can simply say that density is specific weight by g. So that is what it has been used over here. Specific weight by g is the density of the particular liquid. Okay, so that is the value, comes around 713.5. And last is we need to calculate specific gravity. Okay, so specific gravity, by definition, density of the liquid divided by the density of the standard liquid. Standard liquid is water. So density of the liquid we have calculated in the previous part, and density of water, standard liquid, is 1000. So you need to remember this, density of water is 1000. So from here I can say that the specific gravity of the given liquid in the question is 0.7135, which is less than 1. Okay, this is first question. If we need to solve this question, again take a moment and read this question. Okay, again in this question we need to calculate density, specific weight, and weight. Okay, and weight of, now the volume is given 1 liter petrol. Okay, so volume is given, and the liquid which we are going to calculate is petrol. Okay, so specific gravity of petrol is given 0.7. So two things are given, volume 1 liter and specific gravity 0.7. So again, liter is not SI unit, so we'll convert this into SI unit first. So 1 liter is equals to 1 by 1000 meter cube, so nearly 0.001 meter cube. So volume and specific gravity is given to me. Now how I can find the density? Okay, so there is a relation of specific gravity. Specific gravity is what? Density of the given liquid divided by the density of the water. Fine. So density of the given liquid, that is petrol, I need to calculate in the first part. So that will be density of petrol divided by density of water, okay, is equals to S. Okay, so S will be or I can say the density of the petrol will be specific gravity into density of the water, as simple as that. Okay, all right. So you can easily find, like, just for your clarification, I'm just revising that whole formula again. density of the liquid. In this case, density of the liquid will be petrol divided by density of the water, that will be equal to specific gravity. Now in this case, specific gravity is given to us 0.7, density of water 1000, so density of petrol you can easily find, so that will be 0.7 into 1000, so there will be 700, 700 will be the value. Okay, so you can see there 700 kg per meter cube. Second is you need to calculate specific weight. Okay, specific weight of the fluid. If you have density, you can find the specific weight. You know the relation. So relation was, you have density, you know the value of G 9.81, so you can find the specific weight. Okay, density into G. So density into G, that will be the specific weight of the petrol. Okay, last is we need to calculate weight of the of 1 liter of the petrol. Now you know specific weight is what? Weight per unit volume. Okay, now you need to calculate the actual weight. So just what you need to do is, okay, so per unit volume, just convert this, just remove this volume from here. Specific weight, you know, W is equals to weight per unit volume. Okay, so here I need to calculate capital W, so just multiply this volume, whatever the volume is given, 1 liter is given to us, with the specific weight. So if you multiply the specific weight with volume, you know, this is the specific weight, is weight per unit volume, so you need to calculate weight. Just multiply this volume with specific weight. So specific weight is 6867 into the volume in SI units will be 0.001, so it will be specific weight into volume, that will be the exact weight of the petrol. Okay, so these are the two questions, simple questions. Now the next property which we need to discuss is viscosity. Very famous term, you might have heard this term earlier also. Viscosity is basically, if I need to take a comparison of viscosity with some other term in some other concept, like when you go to electricity. Okay, in electricity, when the current is flowing, or whenever the charge is flowing, charge is encountering some resistance in the flow. There is a resistance in the obstruction in the flow of charge, so that is called as electrical resistance. Okay, similarly, when the liquid is flowing, liquid has liquid particles. Okay, so those particles, when they are flowing, when these particles are moving, these particles are also experiencing some obstruction, maybe with the neighboring particle. Okay, with the layer beneath the one layer, or with the layer above the one layer. Fine. So there is an obstruction in the flow of the fluid. Right? This obstruction is, in simple terms, the magnitude of this obstruction is calculated by some law which we are going to discuss further. So the obstruction, this obstruction is termed as viscosity. Okay, so we'll try to understand by a simple example here. Let's say this is a solid surface. Okay, this is a solid surface. Fine. On this solid surface, the liquid is about to flow. So when the liquid is flowing and it has not came in contact with the solid surface, the velocity of each layer of liquid was same. Suppose there are 3 layers I am showing here. So velocity of each layer of the fluid particle is same. Fine. But when it comes in contact with the surface, right? So what will happen? The first layer of this fluid will encounter frictional effect with the solid surface, so the velocity of the first layer will be decreased, it will be nearly zero. Okay, so it will become nearly zero. Now if the movement of the first layer fluid particle is almost zero, what will happen? These first layer particles will try to stop the movement of the second layer particle. There will be relative movement, and frictional effects will be always there whenever there is a relative movement. Fine. So this first layer particles will try to stop the second layer particle. So velocity of the second layer particle will be decreased. Fine. And similarly, the second layer particles will always also try to reduce the speed of the third layer particle, and so on. The velocity of the further layers will be keep on decreasing. The first layer will have the minimum velocity, that is nearly zero. Second layer will have lesser velocity. Now the velocity keeps on increasing, but there is an obstruction in the fluid flow, or the particle flow of the particles in these layers. So this obstruction is due to, or this change in velocity is due to that obstruction. Fine. So this obstruction is called as viscosity. So when you move away from the surface, there is a change, there is a variation in the velocity. So velocity is changed when you are moving y distance away from the surface. Suppose distance y, we are taking a distance in terms of y. If you are moving away from the y distance, the velocity is continuously changing. It is increasing away from the plate. Okay, if you are moving away from the plate. So velocity variation per unit length is also called as velocity gradient. Okay, so there was a scientist, Newton. You must have heard the name. So Newton has given a law to calculate the, you can say, amount of change in the velocity per unit length, right? And then he has coined the term viscosity. So that law is called as Newton's law of viscosity. Now what that law says, that the shear stress, whenever the fluid is flowing, the shear stress of the fluid flow is directly proportional to the rate of shear strain. Now the rate of shear strain is given by the velocity gradient. Okay, so shear stress is directly proportional to the rate of shear strain. That is the, you can say, statement of this law. Fine. The shear stress is denoted by the symbol tau. Okay, so tau is directly proportional to the velocity gradient du by dy. Now if you remove the proportionality sign, we will get a constant for the proportionality. That constant is termed by this symbol that is called as mu, mu. Fine. So this mu is also called as coefficient of dynamic viscosity or dynamic viscosity. Okay, so or absolute viscosity. So there are different names for this term: dynamic viscosity, viscosity, or absolute viscosity. Fine. So this is the law of Newton, that the shear stress will be equal to dynamic viscosity into velocity gradient, or the, basically I can say this law is states that this Newton's law of viscosity states that the shear stress will be directly proportional to the rate of shear strain. Okay. Now if you must be interested to calculate the, you can say, units of SI units of dynamic viscosity. So we can rearrange the terms. Okay, if you rearrange the terms, you will get tau divided by velocity gradient. Okay, now the what is the you can say SI unit of tau? Shear stress. Shear stress, you know, it is Newton per meter square. Stress is force per unit area. Okay, so I can say tau is Newton per meter square, and velocity gradient, you know, velocity is meter per second, and gradient y is, the unit of y will be meter. So meter per second by meter, and it is Newton per meter square. So if you write all those you can say SI units over here, you will find the SI unit for dynamic viscosity. Let's see. So that is what written over here: force per unit area, and velocity is length per unit time, and y will be 1 by length. So if you rearrange the terms in, if you write the these expressions in terms of their SI units, you will get the SI unit of viscosity is Newton per meter square into seconds, or I can say Newton seconds per meter square. Also you can write, also you can say that Newton per meter square is Pascal. Okay, Newton per meter square is Pascal, so I can say it is Pascal seconds. Okay, here it is written Pascal seconds. Okay, so Newton per meter square is Pascal into seconds. Fine. So that is the SI unit of viscosity. Either you can say Newton second per meter square or Pascal seconds. In some books, there is one more type of one more type of unit is used for viscosity, that is called as poise or centipoise. So basically a poise, or I can say 1 Pascal second, 1 Pascal second in SI unit viscosity. So 1 Pascal second is equals to 10 poise, or I can say 1 poise is equals to 100 centipoise. Okay, so there could be direct relation. You can also calculate 1 Pascal second will be equal to how many centipoise? 1000 centipoise. Right? So you can take care of the units. Okay, units could be confusing sometimes. Fine. So that is viscosity. Now viscosity also vary, just like density, viscosity also vary with pressure and temperature. So there is a relation given here with of the viscosity of liquids and gases with respect to temperature. So if you are increasing temperature, what is happening? The viscosity of the gases are increasing, but the viscosity of liquid is decreasing. Again, an important aspect in terms of objective questions. So if somebody asks you what will be the, you can say what will happen to the viscosity of the gases if you increase the temperature, or what will happen to the viscosity of the liquids if you increase the temperature, you can very well answer by watching this graph. Next is from viscosity. That was the previous one which we studied, was a dynamic viscosity or absolute viscosity. Now we need to discuss also the kinematic viscosity. which is more easier to measure. So whenever we are talking about in terms of labs, okay, so in lab measurement, suppose you need to measure the viscosity of the fluid, to it is very difficult to directly measure the dynamic viscosity, because dynamic viscosity depends upon several number of parameters. But if we need to find the viscosity in labs, basically we find kinematic viscosity because of direct relations or lesser depending parameters, right? So let us define what is kinematic viscosity. Kinematic viscosity is the ratio of dynamic viscosity with density. Okay, dynamic viscosity and density of a particular fluid. So ratio of dynamic viscosity and density of a particular fluid is kinematic viscosity. It is denoted by a symbol nu, nu. It's a slightly v kind of a shape. Okay, so it's called nu, a Greek letter. So it is defined mathematically, dynamic viscosity by density. Now what will be the unit of kinematic viscosity? That has been measured over here. So ultimately you can solve it and you can find that it is length square per time. Now the SI unit of length is meter square, per time is second. So meter square per second. Okay, that is the SI unit of kinematic viscosity, meter square per second. And some other units in which the problems may come is kinematic viscosity sometimes is also called as measured in terms of Stokes. Okay, so Stokes or Stokes are Stokes is basically centimeter square per second. So meter square will be converted into centimeter square per second, so that will be called as Stokes. And I hope you can easily convert meter square and centimeter square. So next question we need to discuss is based upon the properties of the fluid. So let's say it is in this question, it is given that a plate is placed at a distance of 0.025 millimeter from a fixed plate. So there are two plates, there is a fixed plate, there is a moving plate. So the distance between both of these plates is 0.025 millimeter. So upper plate, which can move, the upper plate is moving with a velocity of 60 centimeter per second. Okay, take care of the unit, 60 centimeter per second, and the force required to move this plate is 2 Newton per unit area. So if I terms area in terms of meter square, so it will be 2 Newton per meter square. So force required to move this plate with this velocity is 2 Newton per meter square. Okay, determine the viscosity of the plate. Now it has been given viscosity, that means we are clearly asked not kinematic viscosity but dynamic viscosity. Okay, and you know there is only one relation for calculating dynamic viscosity, that is Newton's law of viscosity. Okay, so we can very well use that thing. So the distance between the two plates is 0.025. I can say this is equal to dy. Okay, and let's say the velocity, right now the velocity is 0.6 in terms of meter per second. Okay, 60 centimeter per second is 0.6 meter per second. Obviously it is divided by 100. Okay, so 0.6 meter per second, that is the velocity. And let's say initially the plate was at rest, so the change in velocity will be 0.6. Here it is written change in velocity is 0.6 per meter second, and dy is 0.25. It was in mm, so we'll convert it into meters, SI units. Always we'll do our calculation in SI units. So 0.25 mm is 0.25 into 10 to the power minus 3 meters. Okay, and the force is given to us, but force is given in terms of per unit area. So force per unit area is what? Stress. Okay, we know force per unit area is stress. So directly the shear stress is given to us, the value of tau is given to us. The value of tau is 2 Newton per meter square. Just substitute the whole equation into this relation of Newton's law of viscosity. Tau is given to us, du is given to us, dy is given to us. Just substitute all the values. So you can calculate mu. Mu is 8.33 into 10 to the power minus 5. And what is the SI unit? So since we have done all the calculations in SI units, so SI units of mu will be Newton second per meter square or pascals. Otherwise you can convert it into poise also. We have seen in 1 Newton second per meter square there are 10 poise, so you can convert it into poise also. Both answers are correct. So this is another question. I would recommend you to solve it on your own and solve many. There are many other problems are given in the books. So solve some more problems based on viscosity and Newton's law of viscosity. So that will be helpful for you in terms of exams also. Okay, you can read it down, read it, and you can try to solve it on your own. The next property is surface tension. Okay, now if I need to discuss surface tension, I want you to assume a very simple example. Let's say, okay, try to assume a glass of water. Okay, when you assume a glass of water, if you move very less, okay, let's see, wait. Now if you see this glass of water, what is happening? There are fluid particles at various points on this glass of water. Let's say there will be one fluid particle available here, there will be one fluid particle available here, there will be one fluid particle available on the free surface also. This is called as free surface, right? So if I assume fluid particles at different locations in this glass of water, what is happening with those fluid particles, okay, fluid molecules? So you can assume this thing. Let's say this is A, this is B, and this is C, like this, A, B, and C, right? So the fluid particle which is sufficiently below the free surface, this surface is called as free surface, okay? So if this particle A, over here, this particle A, this is sufficiently below the free surface, this is free surface, okay? So this particle is sufficiently below the free surface, that means this particle is surrounded by other fluid particles also, okay? And you know that molecules apply intermolecular force on each other, okay? You may have studied this in chemistry, that the molecules apply intermolecular forces with each other so they can remain bonded, okay? So this fluid particle is surrounded by other fluid particles, they are applying force on each other, fine. But since this is you can say surrounded by all the other fluid particles, the forces on this fluid particle is balanced, because the forces are getting neglected on each direction, so there will be no net force on this fluid particle, so this fluid particle is balanced. But when I come over here, this fluid particle B, so amount of particles on the top side of the B, on the upper side of the B, is less than the amount of fluid particles below the B, okay? There are less fluid particles available at the top of the B, so I can say the intermolecular force here is less and intermolecular force here is more, so there will be tendency of that this fluid particle B is under, you can say this fluid particle B is experiencing a force downward, this fluid particle is experiencing a force downward, but still it is maintaining its position. That means this fluid particle is under some kind of tension, some kind of you can say pressure, it comes under in some kind of tension, I can say, fine. Now this case gets you can say this case gets intensified when we study this fluid particle C. If you study this fluid particle C, which is available on the free surface, so on the free surface you can see one half of this fluid particle is surrounded by the other fluid particles. So there are forces you can say there are forces acting at the, you can say, below this fluid particle C, but there are no fluid molecules available at the top of the C, so there will be net downward force acting on this fluid particle C, okay? There is a net downward force acting on this fluid particle C. So if there is a net downward force is acting on this fluid particle C, this fluid particle C should move downward, but since it is not moving downward, what is happening? It is try to, you can say, maintain this downward force, it is try to counter this downward force. So to counter this downward force, what is happening? The fluid particles which are available over here, okay, so the forces between the fluid particles which is available over here will be more, okay? So because of which the fluid molecules which are available on the free surface, they are under severe tension, because they want to counter this downward force. So the member of the fluid particles which is available on the free surface, they are under severe tension. So the severe tension the severe tension is called as surface tension, and because of the severe tension, what is happening? The free surface of a fluid is you can say it looks like a you can say stretched membrane, like you do in terms of when you cover something with the plastic, okay? So that plastic act as a stretched membrane. When similarly this fluid particle at the free surface acts as a stretched membrane, which is in which the fluid particles on the free surface are under tension. So this tension is called as surface tension of the fluid particle. Okay, I know this is difficult to understand at once. I just want you to go back and replay this video again and try to hear the whole concept again. Okay, now we'll take an example of very simple example, like if we have a liquid drop. Let's say when you may have gone for a blood test. So in blood test they will pinch your skin and they will take some blood drop on a you can say slide, on a glass slide, fine. So that drop makes that liquid that blood make a droplet, right? So that droplet, that blood droplet, within inside the droplet there is a blood, but outer surface of the blood drop is under severe tension because of this whole phenomena. So whenever we see a liquid droplet, there will be outer surface of the liquid will be under surface tension, and within that that droplet there are liquid filled. Okay, outer side air, inner side liquid. Fine. So again, this outer surface will be under surface tension, you can say sigma. Okay, but within the liquid, within the droplet, there are, you can say there are liquid droplets, so they are exerting pressure on this on the surface membrane. Fine. Otherwise, if the pressure is not exerted, what will happen? Air will come into the bubble, air will come into the droplet, and it will burst the droplet. The droplet will be burst. So which is not happening over here, since we are maintaining a liquid droplet. So there are intensity of pressure and surface tension acting opposite to each other, and they are balanced. Okay. Now we talk about two cases: surface tension in case of liquid droplets and surface tension in terms of hollow bubbles. Hollow bubbles, like when you make soap bubbles. Okay, when you make soap bubbles, those bubbles are not capturing any liquid within the droplet. In those droplets there are no liquid, only air is present on both sides of the droplet. Okay, so liquid droplets have liquid within the bubble, and hollow bubble doesn't have liquid within the bubble, they have gases within the bubble. Fine. Like in case of soap bubbles, what is happening in that case? So within the bubble, inside the bubble, the force is pressure into area of the bubble, pressure applied by the liquid into area of the bubble. Fine. Area of the bubble, see, bubble is, droplet is a spherical body, so area of sphere is, pi by 4 d square. So pressure into area, that will be force. Okay, now this, since the droplet is not bursting, the droplet is not destroyed, that means this pressure force is balanced by surface tension. Fine. So the pressure force is equals to force due to surface tension. You know that surface tension, I have not told you in the previous slide. Surface tension is a kind of a force which is measured per unit length. Okay, it is denoted by S here. SI unit of the surface tension is Newton per meter. So it's a kind of a force, it's a tensile force, but it is measured per unit length. So surface tension is per unit length. Fine. So in that case, if we are using sigma is a force per unit length, but we need only length, we need only force. Right? So we need to multiply with length. So length of a droplet, length of a sphere will be its circumference. Fine. So sigma into circumference. Okay, surface tension into circumference. It is also become Newton. So both quantities here, this is also Newton and that is also Newton. You can say this portion is also, I'm sorry. This side is also in terms of Newton. And this side is also Newton. Okay, pressure into area, that is Newton, and sigma into area, circumference, that is also Newton. So from here we can calculate pressure inside a liquid droplet from this expression 4 sigma by d. Okay. Similarly, if we talk about a soap bubble or a hollow bubble, so inside a hollow bubble, again, inside a hollow bubble there are gases filled. So pressure applied by the gases into the area of the bubble area is sphere, so 4 by pi by 4 d square. Now the surface tension will be twice in this case. Why twice? Because there are gases on both sides of the bubble. So boundary of the bubble is having surface tension on both sides, inner side also and outer side also. So there will be two times of, like if I move in the previous portion, so if it is a soap bubble, what is happening? The surface tension will be here also, inside also and outside also. So there are surface tension acting on both surfaces. Outer surface is also stretched and inner surface is also stretched. Fine. Here in this case only one surface is stretched, but in this case soap bubble, both the surfaces are stretched. Try to assume that this thickness is almost zero. So if this thickness is almost zero, what is happening? There is a surface, there is a fluid particle on this point also. There is a fluid particle over here also which is under surface tension. Fine. So surface tension on both the surfaces. Okay. So because of which, what is happening? The surface tension will be two types of sigma into the circumference. Right. So for in this case, in case of hollow bubble, it will be 8 sigma by d. I hope the concept of surface tension is clear to you. We'll try to discuss some other properties in the next class. Thank you.